back to Cricket for Americans. Nick here.
Gabe, the Night Watchman.
And the Night Watchman and I are ready to review and discuss, there we go, episode 3 of the Ashes season 2.
Season 2. And I just gotta say, Nick, I am so excited for this because this episode covers Australia going to Pakistan and literally letting them have it as,
Ish.
Didn't Australia also just head to India and let them have it too? Oh, the Aussies, baby, that Aussie green. The Aussie green. I love it. I love it a lot.
And if I'm not mistaken, in this one, it was the third match that they got their first win in the series. In India, they got the third match, they got their first win. And right now, by the time we're recording this, it's day 2's finished in the fourth match. Ain't looking too good for that win for India. Hopefully we can get that draw because Australia batted for 2 days, excuse me.
2 days.
2 overs.
And who led that, by the way?
Uzi, baby.
My man, Uzi.
Obviously, it's not as flat as a track, or it's a very flat track, not as a turning track as we want, even though Ashwin got himself 6 wickets.
You know what I mean? My man, Uzi. And again, Uzi, man, I love... This season really focuses a lot on Uzi. It also focuses on some of that dynamics. And one of the reasons I love this season, Nick, is because I feel vindicated. Because after watching season 1, I was so mad. I'm like, what am I watching? Why am I missing that? Like, even the players are like, dude, this guy's a monster in season 1. Why isn't he playing? And I could right away tell it was a dynamic between him and JL, right? Those personalities that don't clash. JL's more of that authoritarian guy. You're going to do things my way or whatever. Uzi's even says it. I'm outspoken. I'm going to say what I got to say. And I kind of got him in the doghouse. And I've played for coaches like that. My kids have played for coaches like that who they won't put their ego to the side, and they will not put the greater good, which is the well-being of the team. You know, there's no way JL in his mind thought, oh yeah, let's go with Burns. Oh, yeah. He's better than Uzi. Stop it.
What?
Stop it. If JL, if you're watching it, you know that's wrong. You know that's wrong. Stop.
The Burns on Burns crime. Oh, my
Burns
gosh.
on Burns. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, he knew it. He knew it. And, I mean, all the guys that they tried up there, there was no way that he thought those guys were better than Uzi. But it was just that personality thing. You see this stuff happen with coaches all the time. It frustrates me. But, you know, speaking about the JL, Nick titled this episode, The JL Saga. And this is where it comes to a halt. This is where it comes to a head. Now,
oh, man, here it comes.
Nick, I had mixed feelings about JL because from season 1, did not like him. All right? I was like, listen, I get it. He came in a tough time for Australia, and he let him out of darkness. Who really wanted to take the job at that time, right after Sandpaper Gate? And then,
tough job.
You know, I hated how he treated Uzi. He reminded me of coaches I played for in the past that my kids have played for. Their ego gets ahead of them. Like, look, we're the ones out there on the field producing. If I'm better, I don't care if I offend your sensibilities. I don't care if I don't, tie my shoes the same way you tie them. Put me on the field. Some coaches don't put up with that, though. That's just real.
Some call that a diva player.
Some may call it a diva player. You're right. And, I mean, that's a different perspective.
And you can't have that either.
And, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, right? Most famous duo. That divorce ended, in my opinion, too early. I guarantee you, if Tom Brady...
Why did it end? Because both couldn't keep their egos in check.
They couldn't keep their egos in check. So I'm pro player. Maybe Nick's pro coach. I want to hear your perspective. But
I'm not pro coach. No, I'm pro situation.
Right.
Each situation. JL, okay, whether you like him or not, whether you don't like the way he walks, you don't like the way he talks, he made us feel bad about it. I mean, come on. You're grown men, for crying out loud. The guy got the job done. Now, unless he's breaking the law, right? Unless he's beating up, unless he's doing shady stuff, then no, winning does not matter at all costs.
Right.
But if his way of going about things left a bad taste in your mouth, but it got the job done. It kept you on the right edge, whatever it was, where you're willing to fight. I don't know what it was. The guy came off of Ashes, almost whitewash. The guy came off a T20 World Cup win. And to your point, he came into a bad situation. He saw opportunity, his love for Australia cricket, being a former player, being a former part of that dynasty era, right? He wanted to come in and clean things up, and the man did the job you had him do. Listen to this, okay? If you had a crystal ball and you can look into the future after Cape Town, SPD suspended for a year, Warner suspended for a year, Bancroft milk box, right?
Milk box.
Milk carton.
They still can't find him.
No, they can't find him. But all that situation, they say, listen, the coach we're going to hire, not only is he going to be able to overcome this, bring the fans back, he's going to get you a T20 World Cup. He's going to get you an Ashes, almost whitewash, one draw in Australia against England, obviously. And the test side is going to be ranked number 1 in the world. And you're not going to take that? This show is called The Test. It's about the test team. I don't even know what's bigger, the T20 World Cup or the Ashes win.
Ashes win.
Right?
Ashes win.
It's called The Test. And he does that, and we're not going to be able to keep him. Why? Because you hurt the players' feelings.
You make a very compelling point. That's why I said I agree with you for once. I am conflicted. Because not just that. Think about it. Every other person in a leadership, from Smudge to Warner to even Tim Payne, who they brought in as a captain, and then, how do I say this sensitively? Does not know proper etiquette with the ladies or whatever, screws up. All these guys screw up, and the one constant guy that is focused on the task and getting stuff done is JL, and
gets the job.
He sees the door. Not everybody. You're right.
And while he's collecting those thoughts, I understand, especially in cricket, the manager, the coach is not as essential to winning as American football head coach. I get that. It's about the players. It's about the captaincy of those players. It's about this or that. But you had no captain. He was suspended at that point, right? You bring in Tim Payne, who was nobody's first choice, right? All these different things. But he was able to get that job done, and there was a lot. I mean, we were watching the first season, like, is there ever going to be, like, an increase, like an exciting, like, is there ever going to be a peak, not just a valley?
Right.
And he was able to get that done. And the last thing I want to say about this before I turn the time over to you is I didn't like how this episode handled it. This was the test. They say this is a never-before-seen, up-close and personal look at the Australian test team. You won't get it anywhere else. Then go for it. You don't have to completely embarrass these people. And they mention it here and there, but they kind of sugarcoat the whole situation. Right. We love JL. We needed a different voice. Right. Some of the players said a lot of the guys didn't speak up. And we've been in that situation where people aren't happy when they don't speak up, whether it's in the workplace or whatever. There obviously was some discontent. There were some people that weren't happy.
Animosity.
But there was obviously some people that weren't unhappy enough to say anything about it.
Right.
Like, it seemed like the right people, this or that, but it was so... I wanted them to get, like, kind of dark with it a little bit. Like, get into it. Let's talk about it. They talked about... or maybe I read it, about after... No, I don't think it was in here, but afterwards, JL went off and started calling them cowards. And maybe they barely mentioned it, right?
Right.
He called them cowards because of people that wouldn't speak up.
Right. If
you weren't happy, then why don't you say it to my face instead of going to the media and saying to them? Right. Later on, he apologized about that, and Pat Cummins shot back, which he should. He should shoot back. He should say it's about me and my guys. I'm not worried about the guys, the legacy guys or whatever. But I felt like it was kind of, let's just mention it real quick so we can mention it and move on. And I feel like this was the purpose for this show. It's only 4 episodes. Right. Give us a whole episode on this. This is what I want to see.
It's, like I said, I'm conflicted because I hate how they handled it. Yes, even in the show, it's like no finger pointing, guys. We were just ready to move on. Stop it. Stop. Off of Ashes win, off of T20 World Cup, no. This is literally players. It was a mutiny. And it was players coming up and saying, listen, we don't like his coaching style. We don't like his managerial style. Even though we're winning. And then that's where I sit back and think to myself, all right, if winning is what's important, do I care? What's important here? That, I coddle you, or that I baby you, or that I get results. I'm a result-oriented kind of guy. You show me how to get results, that's what I'm going to do. 90%, that's just who I am.
Didn't they say he did calm down at one point?
And yeah, they're like
near the end of it, and then they were successful?
You know what I mean? So we got results, and then it's tough for me, man, because the only problem I have with JL is that I think he is thin-skinned from the perspective of, you cannot get upset with Uzi because he's outspoken when you're outspoken. Absolutely. And maybe they're just their personalities are too much alike by they clash. Right. But outside of that, listen, the guy led. he led in a dark time and he got results, which is all that matters. If you get results,
absolutely.
How do you get sacked after getting results? That just, it's dumbfounding to me. So from that perspective, I agree with you. I don't think this episode handled it well. Like, let's be candid. Get some interviews, get behind the scenes. It's been long enough now where you get the players to say, yeah, I was a part of it. The only one I give credit to is Patty Cummings. Because he stepped up and as a new captain said, look, I'm going to be there to defend my guys. Because, you know what I mean? I wasn't the driving force behind this, but I'm going to be here and defend my guys. And he spoke up and said, you know, some of his coaching style, some of his, you know, relationship with the players didn't work out. But other than that, like you said, if there was so much discontent, where was everybody else at? Where were all the other guys that were so upset about it? Whether it was, please don't I pray to God Burns didn't have anything to do with this. Because Burns is even lucky he had the solid day of light on that team. He don't belong anywhere on that team. Just saying. You know what I mean? Like, these guys, in my opinion, be a man. You know what I mean? Stand up and say what you got to say. Don't do that. So to me, that was really what I didn't like about the episode. You're right. They should have handled it better. With that being said, what I loved about the episode is that they talked about Uzi. This is more of his coming into his own, and Uzi, who even today, right now, currently leading Australia, getting another ton out there in India. The guys, I love his, because he's an older player.
How many centuries has he had since he came back just recently? 4 or 5?
4 or 5, bro.
I mean, are you kidding me? He had 12 or something like that before in his career?
You know what Uzi reminds me of? No joke. You know what Uzi's story is? It's Rocky. It's that underdog guy that, listen, he's too old, he's too this, he's too that, and he keeps on proving the fight's not done. I still got some in the tank. That's why I love this dude. 30, so what? Yeah, bring the 22-year-old, I'll outplay him. Bring the 25-year-old, I'll outplay him. You can only send me down when you can't justify it. Go ahead, drop me after 2 centuries.
And what would Australia be doing right now?
Could you imagine?
There's no order currently right now. He's injured or something like that, right?
Or injured again, yeah.
And you have to have someone lead from the opening position. Not to mention a little love to Cameron Green. That's right, Mumbai Indians, baby. But he got himself a century as well. But this is the thing. JL, I'm not like a complete apologist for. Right. Like, yes, it did seem like he was bipolar at times, that he was overly harsh, that maybe his sensitivity is kind of like overboard and he kind of just outlashed. Maybe that was like the Ricky Ponting era. I have no idea. The Glenn McGraw, whatever, the Steve Waugh. I'm not sure how things were handled at that time. But you've got to adjust. You've got to adapt. It's like Brad Pitt says in Moneyball, adapt or die. It's as simple as that. I love that phrase. But whatever he was doing, again, was obviously working. And I don't want to always keep going to Cape Town because it sounds like being a troll. I'm not being a troll. But I feel like that's what happens when the players police themselves. Right? I don't know if the coach before that was a strong coach. Look at what happened. Not that they're going to do it again, but sometimes you have to have that authority figure, even with a grown group of men. Right. I can't tell you how many times, especially in American football, the NFL, the coaches that win are the coaches that don't accept any crap. Right. And they're dealing with millionaires, grown men that have a nicer car than the coach has, for crying out loud. Right. But they don't deal with that nonsense. They're not afraid to get in the face at time to time and say, buckle up or get straight or whatever the phrases are out there. That was my only issue. I do appreciate they went over it. I do appreciate, like you said, Pat Cummings' honesty, even though I didn't agree with some of his comments. But again, he's his own person. I'm my own person. We don't have any expectations where they have to give us all this kind of stuff. Right. But just for this show, the platform it has, I just wanted to give us a little bit more. But I don't want to harp too much on that. Any final thoughts on the JL saga? You know,
I guess the last thing is that, you know, I hate the way it ended. And ultimately, I think you're right. It's just a different mentality, because you also saw where ex-players came out and said how the players handled it wrong, right? And I forgot who they interviewed, but somebody was there, or maybe it was a snippet of like a commercial was like, oh, you know, the players shouldn't be airing out their media. It might have been like a Glenn McGraw or something like that. Like the older generation of players kind of stood with JL versus the younger generation player, and maybe there's just a disconnect there. But ultimately, listen, results matter. Results matter, and if guys get results, you got to go ahead and put that into place, because if not, like you said, it's the inmates running the asylum. Bottom line is, we can both be best friends. We could both be good athletes. But when you're in the trenches and we're the war, if you don't have something, you can't have two people can't steer the same ship, right? And if it's a bowler or if it's a batsman, they're gonna have different opinions of how they do things. The best thing I go back to was, and that's when I knew it was in trouble for England, when you've got and it's a completely different story. But when you've got the captain of the team, Joe Root, talking about, we struggled out there, wooty woo, I forgot how he mentioned it about when, they were going through their struggles. Right before, I said, this is the writing on the walls. And he's talking about how the team struggled as a whole, whatever. And you got Stuart Broad that comes out and says, the bowlers got wickets. You know what I mean? Like, what? Bowlers took wickets. Our job's to take wickets, not bat. The scores are their issues. And you know what I mean? When you got, because think about it, if you don't have that guy, and that's how you know, head coach is in trouble. Who was it? Silverstein or Silverwood, whoever? Silverwood's in trouble. Like, you're letting that get out to the media that you've got one of your number one bowlers, Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad. These guys are GOATs. They're legends. Battling with the captain of the team, Joe Root. And where are you? Why aren't you quelling this saying, no, you shut your mouth. You worry about bowling. Let the hitters worry about hitting. You shut your mouth. Don't worry about how much they're scoring. You just take wickets. That's what you do as a head coach. Because if at any point, it's easy for people to get in each other's throats. So I think that you're right. This is what happens when the inmates run the asylum. And right now, we saw in this Australia tour, Patty Cummins, the first Australia tour India, the first 2 games that they were getting demolished, had to answer some tough questions. And now you're up there and you could tell the heat was on them and, you got embarrassed. Why you even come here or whatever? And maybe that was that come to Jesus moment where he got the team together and said, hey guys, I fought for you. You guys need to come fight for me out here. Because it was a complete turnaround. It was a complete turnaround, yes.
They should have had a win in the first or second match because they played well enough to do it. Going into and that's a nice segue because it's the first time in 24 years?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So maybe some of the younger guys in the team weren't alive the last time it happened there. That's a great storyline. And them, there's some stuff going on in Pakistan at that time too, where it was scary. And Pakistan said, no, we want this so bad. We're going to make sure you guys have all the security you need. We're going to make sure no one comes close to you. I thought that was really impressive.
How do you play like that? How do you play when you get somewhere, Nick, and literally it's not security. It's not the stadium security.
Like that,
Bro, they were like military dudes out there with the guns.
Yeah.
I was like,
and the players may have been, toning it down for the show right there, but they're like, we felt comfortable because we had these guys with us here and there.
Stop it. If you show up anywhere, I don't care if you're first of all, these are athletes that are all millionaires, right? Well, not all, but many of them are. Well, you show up to a country that you already know there's been all types of issues. There's terrorist attacks, this and that. You've got all kinds of issues with the government. And you go and you're like, oh my gosh, there's military escort. That's when it gets real. It gets real when you go there. I remember when I went back to Dominican Republic, right? And as a kid, I came to the country when I was like 7, 8 years old in the States. So, you're too young. When I went back as a teenager and you get off the airport, and you immediately go, and they're in cops. They're military dudes out there with the M16s or whatever, and they're like, yeah, Americans, make sure you don't go here, there. In the news, Americans just went down to Mexico. I mean, it's just current, right? Those 4 Americans that got abducted out there by the cartel. Like, bro, it gets real. And when you get out there, like, here in America, even though we have so much gun violence, we experience a security that in other places, other people don't. Other parts of the world, you got to be really worried about that you go there and man, and I mean, like, I love it, this guy. How do you play like that? I would have not been able to play like, and what if you win?
Well, luckily they were still within the bubble, so you have a very secure place. You're going there. I don't know, not just that, but the bubble came with gadgets and gizmos galore. What do you want? We will give you anything you want. They got, they're like right here. Here's a TV screen, and they're like playing their video games here or there. I love how they're clowning Pat Cummins or whatever. They had some comfort, okay? And people that live in Pakistan or people that are trying to visit family that live in Pakistan, you think they got that kind of escort? No.
Not even a little bit.
You think they have that kind of comfort where I don't know who picked up the bill on all those comfort items?
I'm sure that again, it was so huge for Australia to be there. I'm sure that the cricket board in Pakistan was like, you got a blank check. Make them feel comfortable. Give them whatever they want. Give them all the security. We'll get half the army. Give me like 2 battalions. Yeah. No, not 1. We need 2. Because they want to make sure those players are protected. So they spend a lot to get that team there.
A lot of these guys' top wish list is a cappuccino machine or something like that.
That it was hilarious.
How bougie are these people for crying out loud? But I love how Pakistan's like, yes, we understand the importance of the Australian test team and the history and what that means. We'll do whatever we can. Just please come to the country. And everything worked out without, with flying colors, so to speak, without any kind of issue. And then Uzi, going back to Uzi, his family himself is from Pakistan.
Right.
They migrated to Australia. I can't remember how old he was when that happened.
He was a kid.
And I love how his dad was like telling people in Australia, like, oh yeah, my son's gonna play for the national team. They're like, oh yeah, sure he is.
Exactly.
But the fact that he was able to go back, and I don't know, but I think that was his first time ever playing in Pakistan.
there. It was his first time playing in Pakistan.
Even though he was born there. And it was just so much pride. And I like the fact that it wasn't like he couldn't wait to stick it to Pakistan. I hate when players in Major League Baseball or any other sport here in America, at least, they're with one team for 10 years and the team doesn't re-sign them. Heaven forbid they go to a different team and all they want to do is stick it to that team.
Right. They'll show up for that game. Yeah.
Come on, be a little mature. Like it's a business, for crying out loud. But I love how he took it in such a different way. He had so much pride and he was proud, and he didn't even let it be like, well, I don't want to hurt Pakistan's feelings. No, he wanted to show what he can do. Right. And it's like no pun intended, he was born for those situations, for those conditions. And he's showing it in India right now.
He just rakes, bro. He rakes.
Jeez.
Uzi's a pure born hitter.
Beautiful.
He's a warrior. He's a pure fighter. And let me tell you something. Without Uzi, Australia gets smacked out there because they show like, oh man, Babar Azam, no joke, cousin. You know what I mean? He puts in work. Shaheen Afridi. Like, yo, they got players out there, bro, and they put in work. You know what I mean? So, like, it was also, I enjoyed that part that they kind of highlighted, like, literally how good the game is out there, the amount of talent they have out there. And unfortunately, because of, politics and really security reasons, stuff like that, too many teams don't come in and tour in Pakistan, which is, a shame, really, because they do have great players and they do have, it's such a great, what do you call it? Environment, like cricketing wise or whatnot. I even though I love bowling, when you got those flat tracks and stuff, and bro, guys are just raking.
I love how Uzi's your only kryptonite to the anti-batting. I love, who was it? Was it Rizwan who was like talking about strategy, this or that, to the bowler?
Yeah.
And then Uzi, like, he didn't fully understand, but he pick up this or that.
Yeah.
And so he was able to adjust to it, like, oh, you understand? I understand a little bit. I thought that was awesome.
That was awesome too. Like, okay. And, it's funny, yeah, because, sometimes people don't know you speak the language. I've had situations like that as well, because a lot of people don't realize that, I'm fluent in Spanish. That's my first language. So in high school, if I was playing high school ball and we're playing another team, they may not, know. And in high school, especially back when I was a kid, these kids now are bougie. They got their names on the back of their jerseys. They got their face on the TV. On a prompter in high school. I was like, what? Bro, when I was in high school, they were like, yeah. Gabe, Gabriel, that's all you get, bro. You know what I mean? You don't get no jerseys. You were wearing kids' jerseys from last year, right?
No names on it.
These kids these days, they're bougie. Watch all the young players right now, like, like, listen, you guys got it made. You guys had it made. We had to use used jerseys. But, the Trey got to keep all his high school jerseys. I was like, they let you keep them? Like, yeah, Pops. I was like, oh, we used to recycle those, bro. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's what it was like. So, like, they wouldn't know I spoke Spanish or whatever. Some of the other kids, the Dominicans, Puerto Rican kids would be saying stuff in Spanish. Did I intro? Okay, you coming inside? And I'm like, oh, that's a free base for me. I'm leaning over the plate. Oh, thank you. I'm on base. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm leaning over the plate. You know
Roger Dorn, I love it.
Oh, you got it. If you got a free base, you take it. Okay? What do? Get on base. You take it.
On base percentage. But this episode, it was cool. I did like the Pakistan stuff, and I liked how they were able to, like, okay, these first two matches didn't go our way. We got this. Let's focus on the third match, and they were able to handle some business. But I just wanted more from the JL. We can talk forever about this. Any final thoughts about this episode?
I think that it was important to have this episode because I would have even been more upset if they didn't address the JL thing at all. Let's just be candid. If they went from how could you do it? Honestly, I think that they were in an impossible situation because nobody planned for JL to be let go. Literally on the heels of winning an Ashes and winning a T20 World Cup. It was a shock to everyone. So I'm sure when they had this in mind, okay, we're doing the test season 2, the producers are like, there's a curveball. You know what I mean? Like, what do we do? So we got to address it. Kind of like you mentioned, you cannot envy the position that Ryan Coogler was in to do Black Panther 2, we just lost our biggest star, Chadwick Boseman. Where do you go? Like you're just put in a tough situation. So I think it was an impossible situation. So I don't want to get too down on the producers. I just think it could have been handled better. At least they mentioned it and they tried. They tried to show both sides. How, listen, there were players on JL's side as well. Like you mentioned, a lot of the older players, a lot of the media, well, not the media, but like the ex-players that were like commentators and stuff like now, were like, oh, the players are either too sensitive or the players should be speaking up or whatever, but they shouldn't be going behind his back. I can't remember what was it.
I want to say Michael Huss, but I don't think
I think it might have been Michael Huss. Yeah, so a lot of people like stood up for him. So I appreciate that, but ultimately they
hated, maybe I can't remember.
Like you said, this is the test. The entire episode should have been dedicated to just that, and then we could have had the Uzi stuff in Pakistan.
It's the difference between obviously Australia producers and American, because American, they will give you your own reality show
drama. If
you are like a prostitute or a drug addict or something, they will give you your own show
drama.
They will try to create as much drama as possible. Definitely. If this was American production, they would dive so deep. And maybe that's what I'm used to. Now that I watch Kim Kardashian.
If it was like Hard Knocks, like we've got Hard Knocks in football, there would have been a fist fight. Like somebody would have been like, yeah, JL, I don't want to say nothing, but it was Patty Cummins. You know what I mean? Like somebody the producers would have been like, yeah, JL, just so you know, they would have dropped a dime. Like, yeah, just so you know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure that there was some conversations going on, and it might have been Nathan Lyon. It might have been, they would have dropped it just to get the drama. Because listen,
absolutely.
Let's be honest, we're Americans. We love to see the
absolutely.
It's like a car accident. You can't look away. Like, oh, do I really want to look? Yeah, I do. You love the drama. You love the drama.
Again and again.
The Jersey Shore was 10 seasons of nothing but fights on the boardwalk or whatever. And just all kinds of drama. I mean, honestly, it made them famous. Kardashians, drama. It made them famous. It made them rich and famous. We love the drama. So, yeah, I think that would have been the difference. Like, American production would have focused more on that, give a whole episode of that. Then they would have gone to JL's family. They would have gone to JL's friends. They would have gone to his kids, got more, more sympathy for JL. Then they would have gone ahead and tried to flip the card on the other side and gone, interviewed the little girl he knew that he, the old lady he walked across the street, or the little girl whose cancer treatment he paid for. They would have found everything in their power to make him a sympathetic character, and then they would have flipped the screen, because that's how you do. You know what I mean?
They would have stomped on him afterwards.
And then stomp on him, exactly.
Called him a villain, all this kind of stuff.
Now, here's the other side of JL. They should have behind the scenes, kicking trash cans. You tata! Well, that's British. That's not Australian, but you tatas! Okay? Show up to the field on time! Is that my JL accent? This is all right?
All right. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. This is out of control. I don't know where he's at. Thank you so much for watching us, and until next time.
We know all things.